as I was just saying, we're here to talk about how Locke Data gets business currently and what we can do to kind of increase the amount of business we can get, and also what we're doing as a company to tackle these things. So, how can we win business? One way is to get people to come to us. So this is very much what I've relied on over the past year and a half, is just people finding me through conferences and stuff and going, "Hey Steph, we want to give you some money." But as we get bigger, we need to be ensuring that we have a more robust cash flow mechanism than just relying on people finding us. So that's where outbound leads come in. Those are the people we have to reach out to convince we're awesome. So they don't come to us already kind of thinking we're awesome, or at least fit the bill. We have to do a lot more work. So inbound sales or marketing really is about having people see that we do awesome things and then wanting those awesome things for themselves. That is where a lot of the businesses come from like conference talks and stuff, where proven that I know my stuff, that I'm good at explaining things, and so when they've identified a skills gap, they've gone, aha, Steph can help, she knows that thing, and she explained it in a way I understood. So I'm going to go to a website, see if I can book her for some training, because they've got some tangible thing that they have encountered that's convinced them, and they have come to us. So we split out some of the work into kind of background and foreground tasks. So background tasks are making puppy dog eyes that make people want to come to us without us kind of moving at all. So some of the key things that we can do to be great at getting people to come to us to discover we're great includes content that ranks highly on Google. So when somebody says to Google our training in the UK, we rank highly in that, and we're like the first or second hit, and somebody comes to a great page which says how great we are, they're convinced, and they buy our services. Getting people to say nice things about us. So how do we get, so when like Brent Ozar or Thibaut from Recon Learn, or people from SolidWorks, or basically any of our past clients, we want our past clients happily saying to people they encounter, these people were great, you should use them. So how do we foster that capability? Usually we just want to give people, we want to be able to, first of all, get them agreed that we did a great thing, put it on the website so that other people can see that we did a great thing, and just generally kind of even ask them to recommend us on a regular basis. Another thing we can be doing that is kind of a background task is advertising. So this could be advertising for our training in the UK as keywords, and trying to get people to come to our website through that. A CTA is a call to action. So some of the things that we need, one of the biggest things that can make a difference is if you've got 100 people who start out listening to something you said and you get 30 of them thinking you're great, if only 1% converts, then you only have a 1 in 3 chance of anybody from that original 100 people converting. If 30 people thought you were great, only 1% of those, or a third, will contact you. So we have to talk to then 300 people to be guaranteed one person. Whereas if we had a conversion rate from the thing that somebody has been convinced we're great on is at 5%, then we're going to get guaranteed people from that business, or at least coming to us as a lead. So optimizing how we talk to people and we get people to go and do a thing to talk to us can really make a difference. And it doesn't have to be huge, but any gains we get help bring more people in. And then something that I'm working a lot on is self-service purchasing. I know I don't like phoning somebody to get some stuff done. And if I have specific requirements and I know everything that I need and it's quite simple, I would much rather purchase online than talk to someone. And this is something that we can be this attitude is something we can be doing to avoid blocking antisocial fuckers like me, basically. We can get them, if they can buy online immediately, then we don't have to go through a sales process.
That wasn't me.
Okay.
Somebody turned their mic on.
Maybe Dave's mic worked. Dave's mic worked. Woo! Yeah. If we can get people purchasing, then that's making money. Then that's people who wouldn't necessarily have purchased before, and they're people that we don't have to spend any time on to get that purchase, which gives us time to work on the less bought in people. So these are the puppy dog eyes that we can make that kind of attract people to come over to us without us necessarily doing anything. Being a bit more being less passive about it is effectively doing tricks. People see us doing tricks, they come over with some treats and get us to do more tricks. So things like presenting, blogging, writing code, these are all things that tell people we know what we're on about and that we're good at it. So every blog post contributes, not just as discoverable content that people might find and end up transacting with us through, but as a way of establishing we know our stuff. So the inbound marketing and the kind of foreground business is where I've spent a lot of time, and it's where I try and get a lot of you to spend time, because I think it really works. We don't have to be pushy, and it means that we also we get to play with a lot of things. Things that we're working on at the moment to try and improve are our social media, because again, if we can get more people listening to how great we are, or get more people who are listening to us convinced that we're great, then we get more sales. And the newsletters are a similar thing. It's how do we... You and your elbows, dude. I think we just need to take your elbows off. Just like...
It's not like I need them.
Yeah, you don't need them. No more elbows for you. And again, like newsletters, being consistently awesome in people's inboxes. So that's where we have spent a lot of time in Locke Data, in our kind of client acquisition strategy. A lot of inbound stuff and primarily foreground work. So we're doing a new site at the moment, which will help facilitate a lot more of that background tasks, as well as making it easier for us to load up presentations and blog posts and things. So we're improving the platform on which we can do that inbound capability. But we've also seen, particularly over slump periods when there's a lot of people on holiday, like August and upcoming December, is we need a few more clients to be able to kind of ride through those periods so we don't get too much of a slump. So to be able to do that, we kind of need to stop being purely inbound behaviors. So for outbound, it's about finding people who need us and then telling and convincing them they need us. So this is where we go out and we beg. Oh, they're such cute dogs. We want to, first of all, identify what our customers look like. So my kind of rough pen portrait of a customer that wants our services is the 3 to 10-year-old kind of a medium enterprise business. So they're usually 50 to 250 people. They've got some business intelligence stuff going, but they're worried that they can't compete with all the big players and stuff all adopting data science, and they want to get on that train. So these are the kind of people we're looking for, is they have a skills gap or a capability gap, and they don't know how to solve it. And that's where we come in. We help them solve it. So once we need to start working out that list of customers or potential customers who fit that kind of pen portrait. Then in an outbound context, we then need to start approaching these potential customers. That usually involves some research, first of all, about what size company they are, what do they do, who's the relevant person to contact, and what might be the best way to approach them. Then you have to get them into the sales funnel, so you have to get them to admit pain, that they're worried about their business dying because they're not doing data science. We can also be talking to our existing customers more. This is something that I've not been very good at, is keeping up with people we've done work for and just seeing if they need anything else. If there's another service or another department or just something that we can contribute. And then sponsorship is also a bit more of an outbound active sales thing. So how do we find events that are target-rich environments where we can go and be present and get a name for ourselves and talk to people and kind of sell on a booth. So this is where we're currently devoting a fair amount, well, I've said that about every slide. I'm trying to devote as much time as I can to all the things, but building up that outbound capability of just being a bit more willing to actually pick up a phone will hopefully help us smooth our slump periods and maybe help us grow a bit more. So we've got our inbound background tasks, our inbound foreground tasks, and our outbound foreground tasks. And this is where I would love some input. What else can we be doing? How else can we be convincing people we're great and that they need us? Both from them seeing our stuff and realizing we're great, or us going out and telling us telling them we're great. So here's the kind of the sales process that we're currently working on adopting. So this is kind of more for, this is the full process for if we were trying to get somebody from an outbound perspective. Usually if we go from an inbound perspective, we usually have at least a qualified sponsor. That's somebody who is kind of bought into the project and is going to act for us, act internally as our sales rep. The more people who sell our services gush about us, the better. So from the customer side of things, the customer usually has, they think of themselves as usually having strategies and goals. Typically a business is usually just running on who shouts the loudest, and sometimes that's mostly the CEO. Once they have an initiative or something that they have decided, usually what the latest salesperson has convinced them is the silver bullet to their needs. They'll get a business analyst or somebody to sort out some requirements. If they're really good, they'll they'll check out a range of options. If there's only one person, though, they might skip that over. Then they'll check out the specific solution, they'll sort out any last minute issues, and they'll kind of move forward with it. And heck, they might even evaluate whether they did a good job at the end of it. From our side of things, how that kind of reflects with us is we get a lead, which is basically a company or an email address or a conversation at a booth. At that point, it's not worth anything to us. If we end up with a chatting to a person and we confirm that they kind of roughly need our services, the key thing here is that they have admitted they need our services. If they don't really kind of admit that they've got a problem, then there's not much we can do outside of trying to convince them they have a problem. So anybody who gets to that stage maybe has like a 1 in 10 chance of ending up owing us money. Then it's trying to find somebody in the organization who usually is the person we talk to as the prospect, who wants us to come in and solve their problem for them. Often, though, this is not a person. This is an influencer versus not somebody who can actually sign a contract. So if we can find that, if we can make sure that person's on board, they might be like a senior dev or like a head of customer services or something. Then it's about, first of all, checking to see if they can sign a contract. If they can't sign a contract, then we need what's called a power sponsor, which is basically somebody who has the power to sign a contract. So once we have somebody bought in the organization who's a sponsor, if they can't sign off on anything, we need to get them to introduce us to the person who can. That person needs to admit that they have a problem that we're trying to solve, that we can solve for them, and they got to be willing to sign a contract. If we found that person and they're happy or convinced that we can kind of solve a problem, then we've got maybe a 1 in 2 chance of converting them. Then if we've got if we can get to the point where we can give them a proposal, then we maybe have a 3 and 4 chance. And once they've signed the contract, then we're sorting out the contract, then we're in pretty good likelihood that they'll succeed. So this is the kind of the sales process that we're looking at the moment, and helps us kind of be a bit more systematic than I've been about how the fuck I tackle people who might or might not want our services. So this is what we've been working on, and we've been putting it into a system called HubSpot. I believe I owe a HubSpot how-to as well. Even though you've all had the system the same time as me.
Yeah, but nah.
On how we're gonna do this. So actually this has been really valuable because there was a lead I forgot about from July where I'd left the ball in their court and hadn't picked it up for a couple of months. So being a bit more robust on this will be really useful. And of course I've got a Kanban board, so I'm happy. So that's how we're going to be working with leads going forward. If anybody doesn't have a login and would like to manage or propose people for us to talk to through this system, just let, I think, myself or Amy know, and I think I gave Amy admin privileges. It's much better than giving Oz admin privileges. So that's kind of how we're trying to manage and consolidate where we're keeping sales information. This means that we'll be able to identify potential risks, like we've got 3 clients who all want 20 days of work in November, and we can only deliver like 30 days. And will help us make sure that we're reasonably certain we can pay all the bills. To kind of help with that and all our initiatives, we're trying to do a lot of automation because our time is precious and I don't want to spend it more than once doing the same thing. So on the new site, we're not just selling lumberjack gear. These are just the examples that I have in the website at the moment. But we're going to enable people to transact without intervention. So right now, actually, people can buy time using Calendly, and it will they'll pay straight away using a credit card. They will get a contract that is customized to what they've bought, and they'll get loaded up onto the CRM system. So we're going to be able to kind of try and minimize the amount of time we have to do on sales, so that we can kind of focus on showing people how great we are. If you want to read up a bit more, because I like to have books on things, The Secrets of Consulting is really great, and the New Solution Selling book is where I stole that sales process from. And I'm also getting it implemented at DevOps Group, so I managed to bullshit their head of sales into this as well, so I think that's saying something. You don't have to buy these books yourself. If you want Kindle copies, let me know and I'll purchase them and send them your way. So hopefully that's given you a bit more insight into how we're doing things at Locke Data and kind of how we can get better at it, and what some of the plans are over the next few months for helping us get a more stable pipeline that will carry us through the slump period of Christmas.